Hi everyone, welcome back to A Town Called Yarn, obviously not a real town. My name is Harrison and this is episode 24 of my Knitting and Crochet podcast where I talk about knitting and crochet. 24 is my lucky number, so I'm excited about this episode. I'm feeling big things and I've planned it. I've written down what I needed to talk about, which I haven't done in a few episodes, so we're already off to a great start. I need to stop saying this. I always start with it's been 2 weeks, but I post every 2 weeks, so that's actually quite a dull thing to say. But it's been a fun 2 weeks. I'm filming this on a Thursday here in the UK. It is the 17th, and we're just about to start a 4-day weekend because we've got bank holidays on Friday and Monday, and then Sunday, the day I'm posting this, is Easter Sunday, which is why there's the bank holidays, which is fun because it means not everyone, because a lot of people do still have to go to work on bank holidays, like people who work in retail or people who work in like emergency services and that. But it's fun to just have unbooked. Is that a plane? I don't even think planes normally fly over where I live. Is it gone? But it's fun to just have those 4 days off. Kind of, I've not booked annual leave, but we don't have to work. So I'm excited about that. And that's why I'm filming on a Thursday. Normally I film these on a Friday, but I'm filming a day early just because tomorrow my boyfriend will be home from work. And I think talking to yourself with other people in the flat, like I'm doing now, would be uncomfortable. So I'm doing it on a Thursday, filming on my lunch break. If you are new here, then welcome. I know a good bunch of you will be. So Kevin and Ray from the News at the Ready podcast very kindly shouted me out in relation to the Salish Cap, which I'll talk about a bit later on. And we hit 5,000, we hit 500 subscribers, which is really fun. I don't make videos because I'm like trying to get a certain number of subscribers, but I kind of had this goal in my head that it would be nice to have like a community of at least 500 people by my year anniversary, which will be 2 videos after this one. So the fact that we've already hit that's really fun, and thank you to Kevin and Ray for shouting me out because that's absolutely where those last few numbers have come. If this is your first video, welcome. If you enjoy yourself, subscribing would be wonderful. Like the video if you enjoy it, and leave a comment if you like what I'm knitting, or if you want to talk about what you're knitting. Tell me what you're knitting, tell me who you're watching. If you are in the UK, I don't know if anywhere else has the bank holiday weekend actually. If you have a few days off over this weekend, let me know what you're getting up to. Let me know what you're doing for Easter. Easter's not a big celebration in the UK in the way that like Christmas is, because obviously they're both celebrations related, like based in Christianity, whereas Christmas in the UK, even if you're not Christian, a lot of people still celebrate, but Easter I think less so. Like I'll get an egg from my mum probably, and I'm going over there on Sunday just as kind of an excuse to go over there more so than anything. But I'm excited about it. But let me know what you're up to. Let me know what you're doing this weekend, or have done, because I'm posting this on Sunday, so let me know what you did in the weekend that's mostly gone now. Today I've been talking about a hat that I've been knitting for some friends of mine, which I'll update a bit on. After work today, we're going to their leaving thing, so I need to wrap that actually, but we're going to like their leaving party before they move to Germany. I think they're moving next week. Tomorrow was meant to be my sister's due date of giving birth. Not due date actually, but the date she was kind of planned in, but they've moved that now, so I have a bit longer before I need to start the temperature blanket that I spoke about in the last episode. So I was thinking, I mean, she could go give birth at any time now, but by the next episode, I should have started a temperature blanket because I should have a second nephew, which is exciting. Although nephew number 1 is an absolute angel, which makes me think nephew number 2 is going to be an absolute terror. So maybe I'll be less excited about that. Check in a year when I tell you how excited I am about nephew number 2. I'm a second child though, so I'm kind of hoping that this one carries on representing for second children and is like the best of the family. So maybe I'll have to try and put some work into that to make sure, like, I'll go give him some like training lessons or something. Should we talk about some knitting and crochet? Just knitting this week. It's been just knitting for a while actually. A few of my crochet projects are kind of tied in with like longer term project, because I'm still waiting for the yarn for the Nexus ratio of 2 of them. So just knitting at the moment, which is weird because I used to only crochet and now I knit a lot more. I don't know when that happened. I don't know how that happened. But either way, should we start with some finished objects? I'm going to start with the one that I'm the most proud of. It's my favourite thing I've ever knit, and it's the thing in the thumbnail. If you've watched before, you'll have seen me making this for the last few months. But this is my finished Tintype Scarf. This is a pattern by Woldten. It's a German short row colour work pattern that I have knit on 3.75mm needles, and the main colour, like the neutral colour, is an unnamed colourway by Pixie Yarns on their 4-ply. I think 100% superwash merino. I don't think it's got any nylon in it, but it might do. It might be a sock base. And then all of the colours are the advent from the Crafty Bird in 2024. So it's their musicals advent that I used for this, minus the Christmas Day skein. I haven't put that into this because I want to use that as just a single project. But here we are. I love it so much. I'll give you a bit of a closer look at some of the colours so you can see how they've knitted up. I can't see the camera now, so God knows what's in frame. But there we are. Like I said, I'm so happy with this. This is the first time I've ever done German short rows, so it's a new technique for me this year. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the way it's come out. It's one of those, it was referred to in the pattern as double knitting, which stressed me out a bit because double knitting to me is a type of yarn, so I didn't understand how that was a technique. But when I got into it and when I got down to it, it's actually very, very simple, and it's a really nice way of doing short rows. I prefer it to, I don't actually know what the technique is that I used in the Go Go Dynamo shawl, but I prefer this technique. I find it a bit more manageable and a bit more mindless. So the way this pattern's put together is you start with, this is the end I start on. So I start with an I-cord cast on. The pattern has options for I-cord, cast on and edging, or just garter, cast on and edging. I went for the I-cord because I like the finish that gives. So that's running all the way down the edge. You've got an I-cord going on. And I love an I-cord. You do some stripes. This is actually slightly different to the pattern. The pattern's a bit longer than I have made, which I'll explain. Well, I can explain it now actually. It's because the pattern isn't using an advent. It's not written for an advent. So you do 36 of these little sections, whereas an advent's 24. So I didn't do the 36 because I wanted this to be just about the advent really. I didn't want to duplicate colours or add anything else into it. You then do this little half pill section, and then you go and you kind of alternate between doing the coloured sections which form this short row section and then doing the neutral sections which do the two at the sides. I don't know if that's a good explanation actually, and then the main colour is all done in garter, so it's all knit, but the coloured sections are done in stockinette, so you get a kind of texture difference there when you run between them as well. Have I told you how happy I am with this? I love it. I got to about 1.5 meters in terms of length, which I think's it's a little bit short for some scarves because some were kind of saying that 1.8 meters is kind of the optimum. A little bit of me got bored of doing the stripes, so this is the end of it where you again start doing the stripes. I had planned on making this section longer, but I just got bored of it, so I stopped. And I'm happy with the length. I'm happy. I don't actually know how much wear I'll get out of this, to be honest, because I think it might be something that I kind of put up on a wall. I think it's the kind of pretty where it just could be like hung up. I could just hang it in like a yarn room or something. So that might be what I do with it. Or it might be kind of more of a, if it gets cold in, just like nice to have something around your neck. I mean, this is probably how I'd wear it mostly. I think the length of it suits this a bit more. And you don't see a lot of the colour when doing it like that. So I'd maybe try and like, I I mean, I'm not going to wear it now, so I can work out how to style it a little bit differently, but mostly I just think it's pretty, so I almost don't want to wear it because that means when I'm wearing it, I won't get to look at it as much. So this is finished object number 1. Like I said, this is the Tintype by Woldten. I couldn't recommend this pattern more. It's so detailed and so well written and well thought out, to the point where even though this is my first German short rows project, it became quite mindless because they've really thought about things in a method that means you're just able to get on with it. I think this pattern by another designer could quite easily have been really, really complicated, but they've just thought about it and written it in a way where it's just not. So 10 out of 10, really happy with it. I think I will probably knit another one of these at some point, not anytime soon, but I think it's a really great advent project to show off all of those colours. But I also think I would like to do one with a kind of spin cycle-y colour changing yarn, because that would be fun to kind of see from edge to edge, or maybe even like a yarn, maybe like an advent or like a yarn fade potentially would be fun. But for now we have one, so I'm not going to start another one just now. That is finished object number 1. Finished object number 2 is another hat. I feel like I've become a bit of a hat knitter because this is probably last October. I'd never knit a hat before, and I wanted to learn to knit one so I could knit something in the round. And then since then I've made 1, 2, 3. This is probably my 7th hat I've made, maybe my 8th. This is the Rough Road hat by Shannon Larson, which is a kind of twist on a 2x2 ribbing, which you start, let me unfold the brim actually. You start with 2x2 ribbing, you do about 4 inches of that, and that's the brim that you fold. And then you kind of move into this offset 2x2 ribbing section, which gives this really nice bumpy texture, which is exactly what I wanted for this yarn. I wanted a pattern that wasn't overly complicated, but still had the texture of it. And this yarn is by Woolen Wytch. It's a colourway called Fiery Embers. Oh, have I just made that up? I don't have the yarn band anywhere near me. I think it's called Fiery Embers. It's part of their Nautical Nexus subscription club for 2025, which is based on sea creatures or kind of like ocean exploring, that kind of thing. And this is based off of a orangey, reddy octopus, which is what, no, Fiery Embrace. Is that what I said? I think that's what it's called. And I just think it's so pretty. It's so bright. It's a bit out of my comfort zone colour-wise, but it's just, I think it's come out really, really nicely. And let me put it on for you. Fits nicely. I've done it to about the same length as I've done my hipster hats that I've done in the past. So it fits kind of more like a snug cap. I don't like a slouchy beanie, or I've never worn one really, but I don't think I like a slouchy beanie. I think I like this being, maybe that's a bit close to my glasses to be honest, but I think I like this being snug like my other hats. And I just think it looks fun. Like I said, a bit out of my comfort colour-wise, but I'm having a good time with it. I knit this on 3.5mm Chow Goose, and it was quite a quick knit actually. I think this, I don't know actually, in terms of hours it maybe was about the same time as like another basically 2x2 ribbing hat, but there's sections in between the ribbing, and this is a free pattern, and it's such a great free pattern. I think this is a really strong gift knit because it has the same flex where it will fit a lot of people, and it comes in 3 sizes actually. I did the medium size, which is a shock for me because I have a massive head, but the stitch count of it matched another hat I've made, so I knew that in DK I liked that gauge. But it's a free pattern that comes with 3 sizes, and I think it would be a really strong gift knit because it could just fit anyone. This is actually one major mistake I've made, but luckily I made it constantly, is these sections of like the buttons are meant to be 3 stitches high. In my head I just had that they were 4 stitches high, so every section in this is about a stitch higher than it's meant to be, but I think the overall effect works out. And I think it works out that then I did 1 less repeat of these than was in the pattern, because obviously I had done basically 2 extra repeats just with those extra stitches. But I really love it, and I really love that I'm keeping up with this yarn club throughout the year. So this is my 3rd hat from this yarn club, and the 4th colourway, which I'll show you in a little bit, arrived last week. So I've now got about a month to knit another hat. I am knitting hats with all of them, at least so far. At some point they might become other single skein projects, but I like the idea of challenging myself with like different hats throughout the year. And I just love this yarn. So like I said, this is from the Woolen Wytch. It's their 100% BFL DK base. And I just love it. I love a BFL. I don't think it's a superwash BFL, but it might be. But that's whip number 2. Is there anything else to... No, I spoke about the mistakes that I made. But luckily they were kind of... It would have been annoying to have made that mistake later on in the hat and had different size bumps, because I think that would have maybe been a bit noticeable. But obviously doing it every row doesn't make a difference because it's still even. You'd only notice if like you designed the hat maybe. So if I ever were to bump into Shannon Larson, maybe she'd call it out. But I don't think we live in the same continent, so I don't think that's likely. Shall we move on to whips? And I'm kind of moving on to whips in a conjunction with that pattern. So with the, like I said, this is, oh no, I've just thrown that all over the floor. One sec. Sorry about that. With this pattern, like I said, this is from the Nautical Nexus subscription club. I knew I wanted something that also used what was left of the yarns in another pattern so I could see them all at once. And that is where my tube of yarn was born. So this is just, it's kind of based off the Litmus Cowl, but slightly different gauge and not the same stripe pattern. So what I did was just a provisional cast on. I think this is 100 stitches. And then this is month 1, month 2, and then I've finished adding month 3. So I'm adding basically what I have left after the hat. So the stripes might not all stay the exact same size, but I'm okay with that because some hats obviously at some point might use more yarn, so then I'll have less to put into this. But what I'm really liking is just how stark the contrast is between the stripes. A bit of me did think at one point that I'd maybe try striping the colours together to kind of fade them, but I actually think this kind of straight cut off from colour to colour is actually really fun. So what I do is I just knit until I'm basically out of the yarn that's left. I think if I ever, because obviously sometimes I might end up with less yarn. I think if I ever do a hat that I end up with a lot more yarn, I wouldn't use like loads more than this. I would probably just stop at a similar height because I don't want a section that's like 3 times as long on one colour, at least not currently. I'm knitting this on 3.5mm 16-inch Leica needles, which are my favourite non-metal needles, although I haven't really used many others, so maybe that's a bold claim. I did actually, for this, I got some new double-pointed needles. I got the Chalgu Bamboo double-pointed, and I have to say they were lovely to use. I think because they're a bit shorter than the ones I was using before, it just kind of became a bit easier to manage in my hand, and I really enjoyed the decreases in this. Especially because compared to the hipster hat, I didn't have to do any pole through the back loop, which I hate. So this is my tube of yarn. This is a year-long project, so I will just keep adding the colourways on and then I will unpick my provisional cast on and join the 2 ends together. That's the plan, and then it'll become a cowl, similar to the Litmus Cowl. And shall we, normally I would do new yarn, another section, but while we're here, I have month 4 of that same club, which is called Find Your Way, and it's kind of inspired off of a compass, but also it's not inspired off of a compass because what colour is a compass? I suppose like black and silver maybe, but this is, if you, oh actually is this a, if you haven't received, if you're doing the Woolen Wytch subscription club and you haven't received month 4, maybe look away, but I think you should have this because I've had this for over a week. But this is colourway number 4. It's called Find Your Way. And it's this really, really gorgeous mix of reds and burgundies with these kind of neutral brown pops. I don't really have anything like this in my stash, so I'm quite excited to see how this works up. It's going to be a hat. I haven't found the pattern for it yet. I don't know what I want to do. I think I want it to again be a kind of textured pattern. I maybe need to get a knitting stitch dictionary to kind of, because I actually find it quite difficult to find hat patterns that I'm super interested in. There's a lot of really beautiful colour work hat patterns, which I like, but obviously this is one colour. And I think one day I'd like to get into colour work hats, but now it's not that time. But I find when you're looking for texture, there's either cables, which are lovely but don't suit a variegated yarn like this that much. And then I can't find a lot of others. So I think what I'd like is almost a stitch dictionary so I could find the texture and then almost just make it up myself. Because I know the kind of gauge and height that I like for a DK weight hat on 3.5 mils, so I could kind of just do the maths myself. If you've got any hats that you think fit the bill of that, let me know in the comments below, because I would be interested. I'm just showing you the label. Why am I zooming in on that? Although I do love these labels from Wool and Wytch. I think they're really cool, and I like how these are like written calligraphy style. But this is just super pretty. But it will become a hat at some point. I'll probably cast it on by the next time I speak to you, because like I said, I've got a 4-day weekend coming up and I don't have lots of plans. So I think I'm just going to chill out and do a bunch of knitting and maybe try and finish a couple of projects as well, which will give me space for some new cast-ons. That's everything on that. I mean, this wasn't a whip. The whip was actually the tube of yarn. That's everything. This is a bag by Conchetta at Button Handmade. It's one of their medium bags that I really, really love, and it's perfect for, it'll be perfect for this, which will probably end up being about the equivalent of like a 4 skein project by the time it's done. But also perfect for that kind of size of a kind of medium-ish shawl. Although I did my Go-Go Dynamo in there, which was a 4 skein, quite big shawl, so perfect for that. I really like the Button Handmade bags. I might treat myself to another one on payday, potentially. Next, I would like to talk to you about what's in this bag. Not that. I mean, I will talk to you about that, just not yet. About my Daybreak. So this is a pattern by Stephen West. It's one of his semicircle shawls. And I have made not loads of progress, but I've kind of moved into a new section, which is what the goal was really. I haven't knit on this loads over the last few weeks. I've kind of only picked it up in the last 3 days, because I kind of wanted to get into this section before I showed it to you, so that none of you would laugh at me for how slow I'm knitting. Not that you would. You seem lovely. So what this is this is a semicircle shawl where you start from this point with a garter tab cast on, and then it grows out in one colour, and then you start striping in colour 2. You alternate those stripes as it grows out, and then the border is done in colour 2. So and I really like how the stripes are coming out. It's not a super high contrast yarn, so there are some sections where the stripes aren't super clear, but I like that. I like the way that looks. So I'm happy with how that's coming out. I am right at the beginning of the stripe section, so I still have a lot of knitting to do, because when you think this is going to become a shawl, like, it's got a long way to go. But I'm knitting this out of 2 colourways from last year's Good Omens collection by the Crafty Bird, who I really love. I love the Crafty Bird. They're one of my favourite dyers. The colourways are a Zero Fell, which is colourway 1, so this is what I cast on with. If I could, so that's the cast on, and that's colourway 1. And that colourway I just showed you was actually called Crowley. This colourway is a Zero Fell, which is based off of, this is the Angel, and then the other colourway is the Demon from the Good Omens series. I think they're super pretty, and I knew I wanted to use these colourways together, so I'm really happy with how they're turning out, and I think the stripes will kind of start to show up more as we work out. There's also this fun, you can't see it super well yet, but there's also a fun slip stitch detail that happens that kind of separates the stripes, which I think once it grows out will become even more effective. So this is my Daybreak so far. I'm really enjoying knitting on this. It's not super mindless because there's a lot of increases with it being a semicircle, but I've got the increases in my head now, so I can, other than the increase row, I can crack through the other rows. It's a 4-row repeat that I'm on. I can kind of crack through them without having to think about it too much, which I like. And I'm using just 2 skeins, 1 skein of each colour for this, and I'm doing the medium size of said pattern because that's kind of what I have the yardage for. I will probably in reality keep going until it's a size I want, because Stephen West is quite generous with his yardages and his patterns. So, and I want to use pretty much all of this yarn in this pattern. So I will, if I feel like I've got to the end of his suggested number of repeats and I've got a lot of yarn left, I might throw a couple of extras in. But that's also in another button I have made bag. I really like this pattern. It's very spring-like. It's very appropriate for the time of year. Should we talk about another hat? I've just kicked you. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know how to show this to you because it's kind of a bit all over the place. Let me get this out. So, oh god, this one, I might regret showing you this almost, but I am, if you've seen, so like I mentioned actually earlier on, Kevin from Needles at the Ready shouted out because I'm knitting a Salish Cap, and he was talking about, because he's the one who kind of inspired me to knit the Salish Cap. If you had seen before, this was where I was up to. I'd done a lot of knitting. However, for some reason I thought it was okay to just not use the right needles and just think it would be fine. So I cast on with 3.75mm needles. The pattern calls for 5mm. This isn't going to fit any kind of grown up. I tried it on my head and it just doesn't, it's so tight to the point where it's uncomfortable. I tried it on my boyfriend's head who has a much smaller head than me, and it's so tight on him. He was kind of trying to be nice about it, but I was like, it doesn't fit you. You can say that. And I really like the gauge that you get with this yarn. So this is 2 sport weights held together. The yarn is John Arbon Yarnadelic in Nobody Knows is that colourway, and that colourway is Ballyda, or Ballyda, are those two. It's a 100% Corriedale sport weight. I love this yarn. It's probably my favourite yarn I've ever used. Because, oh no, I'm dropping all over the place. I'm going to regret this later when I have to sort out all this yarn. I originally used it in one of my shift cowls, and I'm using the leftovers for this, which is you hold 2 yarns together like a fingering weight or a sport weight, it's fine. So you get this mild effect. I was powering through and I was thinking I'll just do the decrease and then I'll just have a hat, and I might still end up turning this into a hat, we'll see. But someone commented, and they were absolutely right to comment, saying that they think this might fit my nephew. My nephew's 3, and I think they're right. It's so small. So I cast on from the other end of the yarn with the proper needles. I ordered myself the proper 5mm needles. I got some Chalgoo 16-inch circulars again, and I've started again, and I'm really happy with this. The gauge is so much nicer. It's so much lighter and looser. Like if you see it side by side, so that's 3.75 and that's 5mm. You can just really tell the difference. This will fit me. I can't, it's too tangled to try on right now. This will fit me. Originally, this hat, if you've watched before, was going to be a gift for a friend. It's no longer a gift for said friend. We've not fallen out or anything. It's obviously just not finished. And also, originally these were going away hats. Turns out it is my friend who the other hat was for. It turns out that it's their birthday this weekend. So it's turned out it's actually a birthday gift, and there's no hats for the going away section. We've just got them chocolates instead. So that gives me a bit more time to work on this, and then it lets me keep it. And if I'm honest, I was kind of sad about the thought of giving this away because I love the way these 2 colours have knitted up. I think they're super, super pretty. Now I have to put these away somewhere. I'm just going to put them down and then I'll untangle them. I don't know whether I should have unravelled first and then just started again. I thought it would be a good idea to like start from the other end of the balls and then I'll pull off of this as I'm doing, but I might regret that. But if you look height-wise, I've kind of caught up actually. It's amazing how much quicker something knits up on 5mm needles than it does on 3.75s. Because I'm probably getting almost twice the row height per stitch as I was before in some cases. So we're almost at the same point. But I have a good few inches to add to this before it's the right length. I've tried it on a little bit and it's kind of, it doesn't let me get a wide enough brim on it for the height I've got currently. So I probably want to add another like 4 inches to it. But that's 2 versions of the Salish Cap. Oh, I didn't tell you who that's by. I don't have it written down who that's by, so Mary Prance? Yes. God, what a memory on me. Salish Prance. No, I was right the first time. Mary Prance, the Salish Cap. And I think it's a collaboration with Blue Sky Fibres. I think. I don't know if she works for Blue Sky Fibres. I don't know if it's just she used their yarn. I don't know. But it talks about Blue Sky Fibres a lot on the Ravelry and on the website. So that's whip number 3. Let's keep going, shall we? I mean, I wasn't going to stop, but whip number 4 is one I didn't show last time, but I have been working on a while. It is my Simon Shawl by Twinset Purl. I've been working this for a good little while now, and I have made decent progress. Let's find the right end and the progress marker. There we go. Oh, I'm tangled. Am I? No, maybe I'm not. Yes, I am. 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. There we go. So if you can see that progress keeper that's dangling there, that's everything I've knit since I last showed this to you. So I'm happy with the amount of length I've got through. We are still on the straight section. I need to measure the full thing to know how far through the actual length of it I am. My original plan was to use just all of the yarn. However, I weighed the yarn and I've only just got to halfway through my yarn. And I don't think the scarf should be twice this length. I think that would be too long. So I need to now measure the length, adjust a bit so I have room for the blocking, and then I can work out how much more I want to knit in this straight section before I do the decreases. I'm knitting this, oh my god, I'm dropping it. I'm knitting this out of John Arbon's Knit by Numbers in their 4-ply base, using the black and the green. You can kind of see, there we go, that's blown out a bit. They're much darker than that, obviously, but you can see there where the green and the black is. It shows kind of true to camera, but it shows to the camera true to how it is, but it's such a low contrast and they're both such dark colours, you can't really see without properly looking at it. But that's where we're up to. I'd say we're probably at about, probably just over 1 metre, I'd say. So I probably do still have a good bit to go through in the centre section before I start the decreases, but we're ploughing through. The pattern's completely in my head now, it's completely mindless. So I was doing about 30 minutes a morning on it. I've stopped doing that so much because instead what I do is I dedicate just like an evening to knitting on it, and I make a bit more progress by that because I get a bit more in the groove. Whereas I found in the mornings, I do like knitting first thing in the morning. I like knitting with my coffee before I start work for about half an hour, but this I just felt like I was moving so slowly on with the slip stitches that I like knitting on a hat really early in the morning because 2x2 rib I can just kind of fly through without having to think about. And this is in my Fibre Fox bag, which has moths on, which is kind of designated as projects for my boyfriend because he loves a moth. I've spoken about my thoughts on moths on the channel before, I won't go into it. I don't like them, but they're cute on this bag. This is a cute bag. I got this for Christmas from my mother. Oh god, The yarn's just... So that is my Simon shawl. I will, depends how this goes, I might wait until this is finished before I show it again, because ultimately you're just seeing, I could just move the stitch marker and you wouldn't know, like it's just all the same. So I might plough through and then show you that when it's done, which will hopefully be not too long from now, because I've been knitting on it for a while. I'd like to get it off the needles so that I can just not think about it. I'm enjoying it and I'll knit another one at some point. I like the pattern, and I bought yarn for me to knit one for me, but I just want it to be done, this one specifically. I think knitting for other people, I get a different kind of pressure in my head of time, which means I don't enjoy a project taking ages as much as I do for something I'm knitting for myself, because I'm okay with just kind of sitting in the time for something I knit with myself, for myself. Let's do the last whip. One that I'm very excited about actually, because if you'd have watched my last video before Christmas, or was it the video after that? I don't, it was either the first video of this year or the last video of last year, other than my Advent video. I made a list of techniques that I wanted to learn this year. Or not techniques, but like things I wanted to learn. No, I suppose techniques. One of them was cables, which I did a few months ago in a hat that I made. I made the Cushy Comfort hat by Stephen West. Another one of those things was colour work, stranded colour work. And I randomly just cast on a colour work project at the weekend. So, let me show you the yarn first. I had both these colourways unnamed because they were from a kind of mystery discount set from Skein and the Stitch. So I have these two colourways, which I think this is Fog, but I think it's a second. So I'm assuming it's slightly different to her actual Fog. And then this brown colourway didn't have a label on. But they came together and I think they're really nice together. And they have a nice kind of similar tone to them. So they're both on the 100% Superwash DK. At least I think. The brown didn't have a band around it, but they look like they're the exact same base. They're definitely DK. And I like these colours, but I don't love these colours. They're not like something I was super excited to put into a project. So I thought I'd knit my mum something. Her birthday's in June. I'm good with birthdays, I don't know why I forgot that. But I don't know if this will be a birthday project because June might be hot, so it might be a Christmas project. But I thought I'd knit her a cowl. And here's my first colour work. It's called the Annika Strandhed Cowl by Abigail Collins. It's a really simple pattern repeat. So you start with some 2x2 ribbing, which I've done in the brown, and then you do these like little crosses. So I finished one pattern repeat. And I did all this in one evening on Sunday. It went really quickly and I'm really happy with my colour work. I'm really happy with how it's come out. Because of the ribbing, it doesn't look like it's as flat, but I think if I stretch it out, I think it looks like my tension I'm really happy with. Especially because I didn't really know how to tension stranded colour work. I had in my head, what I did was I found the pattern and I wound up the yarn. And then I thought, oh, I'll watch a video to kind of learn how to do stranded colour work. And then I just didn't do that. I just started. And it's been kind of okay. I will say, it cramps my hand up a bit. I think having to hold the two yarns, because I'm holding them both in my left hand, because I knit continental, so that felt more natural to me. But here's my floats. I don't think they're too tight. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, so like maybe they are. Someone in the comments is probably a much better stranded colour work knitter than I am, so you might have some thoughts. But I think the floats look fine. I think the tension feels fine. Doesn't feel too tight. It's not too bumpy. I just think I'm having a good time with it. It was quite slow going. Like each row of stranded colour work is much slower than just obviously one row of knitting. And like I said, it did hurt my hand a bit. So by the time this is 6 rows, the repeat has 6 rows where you're actually using both colours. It's a 12-row repeat. Is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a 15 colour row repeat. But I like it a lot. I'm knitting this on a random pair of needles that I forgot I had. I'm knitting this on 4.5mm interchangeable Knit Pro and from their Mindful collection, which is the first set of knitting needles I bought, and I didn't like them, so I've never really used them. I think because at the time I was doing that thing where I knit really, really tight, which meant I was having to push my needles through, which meant using metal needles just hurt my hand, which is why I found the Leicas, which I really like. But now that I don't do that, these are actually fine. They're not my favourite, but I just didn't have a 4.5mm like pair of circulars like this. So, and I didn't want to do magic loop. So I cracked on with it, and I'm really happy with it. I'm showing you the end, like there's nothing to see there. So I will just keep going. I did, when winding up the yarn, the brown got really snagged. I did a bad job of it, so I did lose about 20 grams of the brown. So I will just keep going. I will probably do, I think based on the height I have now, I think I'll probably do 3 of these repeats, and then I'll do another row of ribbing in probably the brown again. But I'll see how high that gets me, and if I need to add a 4th round in, then I will. But look at me, I taught myself stranded colour work. I mean, I say taught myself, it's one of those things that feels like a technique, but also feels like just knitting. Because it's not like cables where you're having to do something wildly different. All you're doing is just knitting with 2 yarns rather than 1. So it is just still knits. But I'm really happy with that. I had a good time knitting it. I had a good time. This yarn's really nice, actually. Like I said, it's from Skein and the Stitch. I said fog, didn't I? I think it's actually their smoke seconds. If I think, I mean, I know, it's written on the back of the label. I don't know what I'm guessing, something that I can just read. But this will be a gift for my mum at some point. I say a gift for my mum mainly because I don't think it will fit me, but we'll see how it works out, because I might not want to let go of it because it's my first ever colour work project, so I might keep it. But I'm really happy with that. And that is 2 of the 3 goals I had for knitting kind of worked on. The other is to knit a garment, and I know the yarn and the plans I want to do that with. Although I say that, I don't know whether the yarn I've got is a very, what's the word? Very thin yarn. It's like a lot of meters per 100 grams. So I don't know whether that's the great place to start, but I do really want it. But I don't know why I'm just talking cryptically about yarn. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. 44 minutes in. I think we're making good progress. I have a couple of things left to talk to you about. So that's all the knitting. Is it? Yes. That's all the knitting. And obviously I showed you the yarn. One thing I said in the last video is I spoke about how I wanted to change the way I'm counting my stash. What I was doing is I wanted to track my yarn in, yarn out of the year. But actually, that's wasn't really working for me in terms of I obviously started the year with a stash, so I don't just want it to be about the yarn that comes in and out this year. I wanted it to be more about my whole stash. So I organised my entire yarn stash a couple of weeks. Last weekend, actually? No, the weekend, 2 weekends ago that you're watching this. It was actually the day that my last video came out. I didn't film the process because it would have been incredibly dull, because it was mostly me sitting at a table taking pictures of yarn. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to film a video at some point that's kind of more of a stash tour, I guess. So I can go through how I've organised it, because I'm quite happy with how I've done the organisation. And also I can show you the yarns that I've got and that I'm planning on using over the next year, so that I guess you can kind of hold me accountable, but also there's a lot of yarn there that I got before I started making videos, so I can show you that. But like I said, I want to work it down a bit. So I've done some maths. What I'm going to do is I will probably put some graphs and tables up on the screen, because I love a spreadsheet, so I'm moving out of the way, so they'll go in that space I've left. I'm just opening up my laptop I've got some stats. And this is the beginning. So I don't have any like ins and outs for this, but what I'm going to do is probably monthly, probably every other video, is I'll kind of show you where we're at in terms of yarn I've used, yarn I've not used. The main thing to start with is I didn't count any yarn that was already in a whip as of two weeks ago, mainly because that just felt complicated to me, and obviously that yarn's already being used. So this is just yarn that, I mean, actually it's in some of my current whips, so it's in this colour work project. And I think maybe the Daybreak is counted, maybe not. But what that does mean is that when some of my current finished objects are finished, they will add to my stash rather than taking away, because they will add what's left rather than taking away what I've used. But from then on, it will be going down, apart from when I buy yarn, in which case it will go up. So like, I already have this to add, so no promises as to whether it will go down. But let's go through the stats. The main stat is, and I think this is ridiculous, the total amount of yarn I have, and I'm counting 100 grams of yarn as being like one ball of yarn, because that's typically how it's sold. Some of this will be mini skeins, which is obviously smaller than that. Some of it will be 50-gram skeins, but I thought I could hear music. But I'm counting it as 100 grams as a ball. I am starting with, not including the yarn that has come in since, but I'm starting with, in my stash, which I'm looking at over there as 2 towers of cage that I'm looking at, is 192.75 balls of yarn. That's so many. I only started knitting / crocheting in 2023, so that's gone up really quickly. Of that, 86.5 of those balls are commercial yarns. So that's non-hand dyed, basically. A lot of that is the DK weight that I showed last video, which is for my temperature blanket that I'm making for my currently unborn nephew. 28 balls of that are that. So I'm okay with that bunch. But a lot of it is just other yarn that I've collected. I actually got rid of quite a lot of yarn. I gave a lot to my mum and my brother's, no, I don't have a brother, my boyfriend's brother's wife. So my boyfriend's sister-in-law, who both knit. And then there was some of it I did have to throw away because it had become an absolute mess. And it was kind of some old yarn. It wasn't particularly nice yarn either. Some really cheap stuff that I bought a couple of years ago that was all tangled and just kind of scraps. And then I also took some of it to a charity shop near me to just kind of get rid of it. There was a lot of yarn in that I got rid of. But it was just yarn I knew I wasn't going to use ever. So I just thought it's made me less stressed to just get rid of it. So that means 106.25 balls are hand dyed yarn. So that's yarn that I bought from indie dyers. Of that, of all my yarn, 14.6 balls of it is Advent yarn. That doesn't include the leftovers of, we didn't talk about that actually. I have all the leftovers from my Tintype that aren't counted, that I'll roll up and weigh. I think though first I'm going to turn these into granny squares for my blanket. I was meant to mention that earlier actually. So I've got in here 24, and I didn't use a lot of yarn in that, so there's a lot of the 480 grams left that I need to add. But I'll turn them into granny squares first, I think, before adding them. This is also the bag that project was in. It was the Advent bag from Pigment and Ply from 2023. Bit of a tangent though, but 14.8 balls, 14.6 balls are Advent. 12 balls are chunky weight yarn. This is all commercial. So I have 2 lots of chunky and commercial. I have some James C. Brett yarn, and I have the leftovers of the Moana doll, so like the chenille yarn that I made for my nephew that is also going to become another doll for my nephew at some point. 53.5 grams of it are DK. Again, a lot of this is commercial. So that's the temperature blanket yarn that I had. It's also some other yarn I had. It's some Stylecraft Special DK. Is it Special DK? I think it's Stylecraft Life, DK Life, which I bought to crochet my boyfriend a jumper. I learned I don't like crocheting garments, so I now will keep it to knit my boyfriend a jumper. But also some of that 53.5 is hand-dyed that I have. I like a hand-dyed DK. I think it's good for a single skein. 63.5 grams of that is fingering weight yarn. This is almost entirely, no, that is actually entirely hand dyed. I don't have any fingering weight commercial left. No, I'm lying to you. A couple of those balls are some sock yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners, but most of that's hand dyed. 4.5 grams of those are lace weight. So that's a mixture of some mohairs or that kind of fluff yarn I have for the most part. 5.5 grams of those are leftovers. So this is both DK and fingering, just like leftover skeins that I've got in bags that will become various scrappy projects, or things like the Salish Cap at times. But I've kind of just put them in bags and I'm just classing those as leftovers. And then 39.6, and this is ridiculous, 39.6 of those are minis. So that doesn't include advents. So I just have a lot of mini skein, and some of that is like leftover minis. So from things that have like gone into, what is it called? That have gone into my granny square blanket that I'm making. But it's also, I love a mini skein. I love a little collection of mini skeins. So that's a lot of minis. So that is what adds up to 192.75 grams of yarn. My goal is to, by the end of this year, I'd like to get that down to 50, no, that would be mad. I'd like to get this down to 150 balls of yarn. So I'd like to use, from stash, 42 balls of yarn, which is 4,200 grams of yarn, which is so much. But I think that's quite doable because obviously across the year I'll use quite a lot of it in the temperature blanket I'm making. I will also use quite a lot of it in the, there's a good chunk of advent plan projects that I have that I want to use last year's advents before the start of December this year. And then also I'll just knit other things. One other thing that I've done is I have in my notes app, and I'll go over this in more in depth with when I talk to you about my yarn stuff. I have a, is that showing up? I don't know how to show it. Let me close my laptop, I don't need that anymore. I have taken a picture of every skein of yarn I have. So when I look at projects now and when I want to start something new, I will start here rather than finding a project and then going online and buying yarn for it. So I think that will help a lot as well. But that's my yarn stash. That's the stats. I will have had tables and graphs or whatever on the screen, and I will update you on that as we go through the year. Finally, I didn't talk about this last week because I kind of ran out of time, but let's talk about some books that I've read and some things that I've watched, because I thought that's nice to talk about at the end. And I've been really getting into my reading this year. I had a kind of few years where I struggled to really get into reading as a hobby again, and I'm kind of just really loving it this year. I'm kind of really making the time. So I'll move out of the way again because I will put up the pictures. The first book I finished is White Trash Warlock by David R Slayton. Or Slayton? I think it's Slayton. This is the first in a series. It's a kind of, it's a magic-y fantasy book, but set in the real world. So there's a lot of there is other dimensions and there's elves and there's other creatures, but it's that happening in relation to our world, where rather than it being set in just another fantasy world. I gave this 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I think I will definitely read the second in the series to kind of keep going with it, but I didn't love all the characters all that much. I think I want the characters to develop a bit more. But I like the world building that they've done, and I liked the story all in for the most part. The ending was a little bit all over the place, but was ultimately quite nice. But I enjoyed it. I recommend it if you're into it. It has a slightly queer undertone in terms of the romance, but it's mostly about the magic. So I think my camera's overheating, so it might turn off in a sec, which will be annoying, but we'll see. The second book that I finished since I last spoke about books was Penance by Eliza Clark. So this is her second novel. She has a short story series that I've read as well, but this is her second full-time novel. I love Eliza Clark's writing. This is a story that's kind of told as though a man is writing a true crime novel about this crime that it's not a real crime, but about this thing that happened up north in the UK. And it talks to the committers of the crime and also the victim's family and all those things. It's really, really wonderfully told. It's set in kind of mid 2010s, and I think it really, really captures that time well in terms of just the way that teenagers were during that time and like the zeitgeist. I was a teenager during that time, so I really felt like I felt like I knew the people in this book. I felt like they were very well written. I really, really enjoyed that. I gave that 4 stars. The book I'm currently reading is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I'm about 90% of the way through this. I'll finish it tonight probably, maybe tomorrow night. This is a book set from the kind of late 90s through the early 2000s, about 2 people that kind of meet as children and then meet again later in life, and they start making a video game together, and then it's kind of tells that story, and then it goes through as they kind of build a company, and then it's very like flawed characters, and it kind of goes through the messy parts of various relationships. But it's really, really beautifully written. I cannot recommend it enough. I've not finished yet, so I've not given it a rating, but I think it will be quite a high rating. The characters are so well written. They're so you kind of fall in love with them, but also hate them at the same time. But then you kind of understand them, and they feel very real. It's a really, really good book. I cannot recommend it. It's very popular, so I think a lot of you might have read it, but I really, really recommend it. And actually, I don't really have anything that I've watched of note, so I won't talk about that because I've not really watched. I've been watching a lot of YouTube and that. So I think we will call it there. I'm going to try and call it there before my camera burns because I think it's overheating, but also it's still been filming, so we'll see. Thank you so much for watching if you're still here. Another long episode. I feel like I'm starting to yap a lot more in these. I'm a bit more comfortable talking to camera, so I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've enjoyed the knitting. Like I said at the start, let me know what your plans are for this weekend, whether it's a bank holiday weekend or not. Let me know what you've been knitting. Let me know what you're working on. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. I might see you earlier if I do film. I've got a few ideas for a few other videos, so if I end up filming these, I might see you earlier than 2 weeks, but they might come out after my next podcast, so we'll see. Your guess is as good as mine at the moment. But like I said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in at least a couple of weeks. Thanks. Bye.